Good to have you again on the program Aqua Farming. For those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, this is the only program that brings to you all that is in the water. And of course, today we have yet another expert, a usual in the house, like an official in-house expert, who's going to be expatiating some very topical issues when it comes to fish rearing. And of course, today on the program we're looking at fish health. Fish health is one of the things that actually take a lot of people out of fish business because you can wake up and see that 100% of the fish are all gone as a result of ill health. Maybe you just started with just a fish and then you metamorphose to the level of affecting all the fishes. So to be able to cover this very menace is more reason why we have to talk about this topic. And of course, my usual guest is Gabriel Wase. Gabriel, good to have you again.
Thank you.
All right. Gabriel, now let's start with this now. How can you achieve a healthy fish?
First of all, health, they say, is wealth, and it's not different in fish. Grow a healthy fish, you become wealthy. And if you don't grow a healthy fish, you might end up running out of the industry. Very key and important, you must stress. Health entails freedom from diseases or illness, and being in your right body. There is a lack of malfunctioning. So fish health is very important and must be given due attention. There has been instances of excessive use of medications, antibiotics, and the likes in fish farms. Basically, for fish, we have some certain agents that cause or transmit diseases in fish. And talking of health means one needs to understand the causative agents and how they operate. Then you understand how to tackle. And this has been a very big problem in the industry because almost every farmer has become a veterinarian. Services that should be handled by aquatic doctors or experts, and they are doing it on their own. And that explains why sometimes there are losses. First of all, let's go deep. Usually we have 7 causative agents when it comes to diseases of fish.
Okay.
We have the bacteria, we have the fungal, we have the protozoan, we have the parasite, we have non-infectious, and then we also have what we call the miscellaneous, so those ones that can come from any angle, maybe as a result of physical, exercising or fight, or those ones are not transmitted, or from nutrition, because from feeding too, disease can come up. So how do you know, or how do you detect those diseases is a major concern that we have or we face in the industry. Because what a lot of farmers do is that once the fish begins to behave abnormal, or once it begins to show signs of diseases, all they know how to do is to begin to pour in salt in the water, begin to apply indiscriminately antibiotics of different forms and different kinds, and it has happened to an extent that some of those antibiotics are no longer effective because the causative agents have become they have become so used to them, and maybe because of mutation too, they are no longer effective. This is because they has been abused. They have been indiscriminately used. So, for instance now, let's say a red pest as an example, which is a bacteria diseases. And of course you know that you have bacteria, like I've earlier mentioned, you have bacterial disease, you have fungal disease. Those diseases are not the same. Their mode of transmission is not the same. Their mode of treatment may be similar but not exactly the same in all cases. But like I said, what farmers do is pour in salt apply antibiotic at what dosage, they don't even care.
How effective is salt in a pond? Because I think I've asked a woman, a local woman, like you rightly said, they assume veterinaries. She said that sometimes they put salt to, and I made to understand that it affects the skin. So
Yes, that is if it is wrongly administered.
okay.
The point is that there has been a campaign against indiscriminate use of drugs, and it is not only about the effect it has on the fish, but also the end effect it has on the consumer. Because if these drugs are utilized, the residual effect is transferred to the consumer, and that is human, and the result of which you cannot tell. So accumulation of those residues in this body of the human being can result to certain diseases. So that is the reason why sometimes we don't like discussing in detail, like listing out what drugs should be used for what diseases and at what dosage. But we can do, because even when you tell a farmer who is a layman, by the time you are not there, they don't do what you ask them to do. They are doing what they feel should be done, or what they saw you doing, and perhaps they don't know the science behind your action, but they carry it out in your absence. So because of that, sometimes we don't like listing them out holistically the way it should appear. But yes, salt has an effect. It has an antibiotic qualities, but should be used with caution. You don't pour salt directly on your fish, because it's going to affect them. So when you want to apply salt, it should be used with caution, like I said, and you need to dissolve it. If the fish is already in the water, in the pond, and you want to apply, you dissolve it in the water and you sprinkle the water. But there's dosage for everything.
Because I believe that's what they used to kill the fish in.
Yes, because the same salt you are using as a treatment feature, the same salt you can use to kill the fish. And this thing you said happened to a client in Cuba. Because she stored fish. He said, according to her, when they prepared the pond, because when I got there, I asked a lot of questions to know where the problem came from. And they discovered that after curing the pond, they stocked the fish and poured salt. And this is baby fish, juvenile, that are barely taking 2 mm. So you stocked 4,000 fish and they all died. So you just look at the loss. You just procured this, you treated your ponds, you brought in seeds, and it became a waste instantly. I said, this is not the right way to go about it. Yes, everything, even water, can be dangerous. The same water is harmless can become harmful if handled wrongly. So the salt that they are using has antibiotic qualities, but has to be used with caution. You dissolve that salt in the water and sprinkle at required dosages.
Okay. Not
just fetching the salt, and then if it is even industrial salt that is strong, it's going to land you into a lot of trouble. So not everything in your fish, abnormality that your fish requires use of medication. Sometimes all you need to do is water therapy. Sometimes all you need to do is you isolate the affected fish so that you handle it separately, then leave the rest and they continue. But the farmers are just so used to using chemicals and antibiotics, and at the end of the day, sometimes they are no longer effective because they have been abused. So, in fish generally, the diseases are quite similar. For instance, let's look at the red pest, which is bacterial diseases. You will see that the red pest is affecting your fish. You see some red stripes on the skin. You see that sometimes they may have, the fins are chopped off, even the tails. And you need to see at extreme cases, there could be ulcerations on the skin, there could be ulcerations on the fins that will result to them being chopped off. So once this is happening, as an expert, when you look at them, you already have tailored what is affecting your fish. Oh, this must be a bacterial infection. And if it is a bacterial infection, how is it going to be treated? This is one aspect that many farmers are getting it wrong. There are different ways of administering medication to fish. The same way you do to a bacterial disease is not the same way you apply to a parasite or to a protozoan. Of course, most of these protozoans are external. So administration of these medications in the water alone solves the problem. But bacterial infections could be internal. And some of them are internal. Fungal, some of them are internal. So if you are only administering the medication in the water, it doesn't have much effect. It is more effective if it is incorporated in the field at the right dosage and the fish consumes, because the attack is happening internal but expressing externally. So these are some of the wrongs that the farmers are practicing, that they are not getting right, because sometimes you just say that, oh, my fish are dying, my fish have died. Yes, your fish have died because you yourself, in fact, most of the drugs that we use, like I've said, dosage is highly essential. You have to use them with caution. Even when you want to clean your tanks, you want to disinfect your tanks. There are many of them that we can use, but I wouldn't want to mention their name, because by the time we live here, you see that they have become their own doctors, and they'll be killing their fish and even jeopardizing the health of the end consumer. Because there are people who are so crafty these days. Sometimes your fish is not healthy. You are fully aware the fish is not healthy, but you're still selling them to the consumer. So you are transferring that to a human being, a fellow human like yourself, and the person is going to consume them without knowing. So the issue of health is something that farmers should not take lightly. And if they cannot invite an expert in any other aspect on this, they should do it, because it does not only affect their investment, it affects the lives of other persons. So, and then like I was saying, the mode of operation or attack from bacteria and from fungi and from protozoans is never the same. So the control mechanism will also not be the same. But you need to understand, this infection that I've seen, what could be the causative agent? And some of them could be quite similar. Like, let's say, the mud fungus. The mud fungus is a protozoan disease. And then each is a parasite. But they make sometimes you look at some expressions around the cornea of the eye or around the mouth, something in form of cutting. But they are quite similar, but if looked into in detail, you will know if this one is caused by a protozoan or this one is caused by a fungus. And if it is so, which treatment measure should I adapt?
Okay, you mentioned that there are 7 different agents when it comes to common with fish.
Yes.
Which one is the most common that affects fish, those diseases?
Yes, among these 7, the ones that are most prominent are bacteria.
Okay.
But all of them can be seen. And like I've always said, if you maintain an optimal water quality in your pond, the chances of them affecting your fish are quite minimal. If you maintain absolute water quality, they will be there, but they cannot affect your fish, because the fish is in good condition, they can be able to fight back. But you don't also give them the room to come into in mass, because if they are present in large numbers, they will overpower your fish. But with good water and good management practice, they cannot come. But all of them can be present in water at any time, but most prominent among them is bacteria. That is why I see that the use of antibiotics is quite common, because that is the one that affects fish more. And you see, when we talk of, let's say, these miscellaneous diseases as we classify them, or nutritional diseases, for instance, or let's look at something like constipation. Constipation happens as a result of feed.
Okay.
It is nothing more. It is feed. Now, when fish suffers constipation, sometimes it can be evidenced by their fecal droppings. But it also causes reduction in activity. They can be sluggish. They will have slightly swollen abdomen, and then they will show poor appetite to feeding. Now, someone who is just maybe a new entrant into the business looks at this. The next thing is poor salt. or go to the market to acquire any antibiotic of their choice that they can afford and pour. But this is something that does not even require antibiotics or any medication. All that is required of you to do is to change the water to a fresher one and change their feeding after starving them for some time.
Okay.
You know, that's
Simple.
all you need to do. That's just all. You don't even need to go to the market to buy any form of antibiotic. All you need is your water quality. You need to take it to the maximum, optimal level, and then you can suspend their feeding for some hours to starve them. You starve them, you give them time, maybe you can even starve them up to 24 hours. This is one area that farmers get it so difficult. You tell them to starve their fish for 24 hours, they are not okay with that because they feel that, oh, they will die of hunger.
Yes.
Fish does not die of hunger. Fish can stay for a very long time without feed. If there is no disease, if there is no natural mortar, it will not happen. Hunger alone will not kill the fish. The only thing that will happen is that the growth rate is reduced. But it's better to have it that way than lose the fish at the end of the day. So when you tell them to starve the fish, they feel is something they don't want to do. Sometimes they are saying yes, but as soon as we are leaving, they are doing something else. So, like I've given you an instance of constipation. This is how much people have abused use of antibiotics. And again, do you know sometimes some of these antibiotics cannot be effective because not the right one is being used. There's something we call AST, which is antibiotic sensitivity test. It is something that you carry out to know with what I have, with the infection that is coming on my farm, what antibiotic, you try to, that will define the causative agent. It will define, so once you know the causative agent, you now follow up to understand the root, the mode of operation, the mode of reproduction, and how you can truncate that. That gives you an idea which antibiotic is fitted in for a job like this. So you now know which one to use. But they don't care. All they know how to do is just bring in any antibiotic of any form. And of course, the producers too have tried in a way because we have some of those ones that truly are quite broad. Some of these organisms, some diseases are caused by gram-negative, some gram-positive, and there are also some antibiotics that can actually control both. But you first of all need to know what challenge you are facing to be able to tackle it very well. Additionally, like I've said, sometimes when you witness abnormal behaviors from your fish, the first point of call, as I will always say, should be watch your water quality. If you have your kids run a test on most of the most common parameters, if they fall within range or some deviates, change the water, clean your pond or your holding tanks, then put in fresh water. You know that if a disease is caused as a result of feeding or let's say feed in general, if your feed is poorly stored, usually feed is supposed to be stored in a place that is not moist, because if the store is moist or there's water in the store and comes across the feed, it's going to develop what we call aflatoxin, because there is oil is a component of the feed, and so it's going to become rancid. We call it rancidity of fats. So that rancidity is what produces the smell that you see the feed having an offensive smell, and then it results to what we call aflatoxin, which is caused by aflatoxicosis. So this one is not a disease, it's something that is as a result of feed. What you need to do is withdraw that feed, bring in another. It's as simple as that. You don't need to start looking, but they are treating the fish, they are still giving the poor feed.
Yes, the same feed that causes
the same feed that caused the problem. You are treating it, you are still administering. So you are not doing anything.
So how do you tell the feed is what causes this problem?
That is what I'm saying now. Basically, it can cause constipation. If it causes constipation, you see, the fish will exhibit difficulty in excreting. And so even when they do, you begin to see something like lumps. It will float on water. You know that they are having difficulty in excreting. That could be as a result of poor digestibility of the feed. That is on one hand. Another hand, you will even perceive it when there's contact between the feed and water, or the environment in which it was stored is moist. Then the fat in the feed will become rancid. Then there will be onset of aflatoxins. Those aflatoxins become toxic to your fish. So when the fish is fed, and if care is not taken with time, you begin to see physically that there will be mold growing on the feed. So what you need to do, you have to eliminate that feed, take it out, bring in a new feed, break in the feeding, that is starving them for some hours, maybe up to 24, so that they can try to manage to excrete whatever was within their abdomen. Then you start with a fresh feed. So in that way you have cut the link between the causative agent and then your fish. So you continue with the fresh one. But most times farmers are not so informed like this. So they go about spending more money to buy antibiotics and insisting on using their own feeds. And they will tell you that this is the same feed they have been using. Yes, that is the same feed you were using, but at that time it was not bad. Now it has gone bad, so you have to discard it. But people will find it so difficult to discard what they used money to acquire. That's the problem.
All right. Now, Mr. Gabriel, what are fish predators, and how can we actually manage fish predators?
Yes, when you talk of predation, there are different forms. Even human beings can become predators in some instances. Yes, because sometimes human beings can poach. We call it poaching. That is unauthorized harvesting of fish that is not rightly yours. It's called poaching. But when it comes to all those other animals or other pests, we call them predators. Yes, there are different forms of predators ranging from reptiles to birds. You know, there are birds that are so good at that. The kingfisher, for instance. You know, they can go inside of water and stay for a very long time, and you will never know there is a bird in the water. They are chasing fish. But those ones will
go into ponds as well.
They go into the water. They can be there for 5 minutes or more. And if they entered the water before you came, you will not even know there is a bird in your pond.
Have you had an experience before?
Practically. There was a farm that I once consulted for. And then they stocked their ponds. These birds were coming. The staff were not observant enough. And that's how the birds were eating up, getting fat. And at some point during harvest, what was left in the ponds was so minimal that the staff were arrested. Yes, the owner said they have stolen the fish. So it was when I came in, then I observed this is what is happening. So, but of course, you know, they believe, to them, belief is stronger than fact. You know, so I had to prove it. So I requested for them to acquire protective nets, which we got them. They prepared the ponds and then stocked again. So those protective nets are meant for predators, to scare predators. So the birds started coming again. Yes, the birds started coming again, and then they were caught by those nets. They get caught by the nets, they get caught by the nets. So within 2 days, before the birds could notice that there's danger here, they have caught several of them. Several of them. That was when the management now believed that the fish were not stolen. So there is the danger that those predators can cause is what you cannot imagine. So you always have to, within the location of your farm, you need to take note of those things. You need to note those things. If the birds are there, then it is compulsory for you to have the protective nets to cover against them. Yes, so if you cover, it's just a matter of few months. You know, those birds can eat up your fish when they are still at juvenile stage. So once they advance to jumbo stage, they can no longer pick them. Especially when they get to like super jumbo stage, they can no longer pick them. So at that point, you are free. Only
predators.
Yes, they are free from such predators. So predators are basically those organisms that will come to take your fish without your permission in your pond. And they can do a lot of harm. as I've just told you.
All right. Now, before we go now, what is the best way to actually stay off disease in the fish pond?
Yes, prevention, they say, is better than cure. Prevention is better than cure. Number one, maintain good sanitation on your farm. Good sanitation on your farm. Maintain very good quality. Adapt even biosecurity measures. You know, there are times where maybe you woke up, you visited a farm, and there is an outbreak in that farm. You left that same farm to another farm where you had gone to have contact with fish that are diseased. Then you took those disease organisms, those pathogens, to another farm. So if you don't have, let's say the pathogens that you moved from one farm, you are introducing them directly into another. If you go to another farm and still have contact with fish in that farm, that is why in your farm it's always good not to allow strangers to have contact with your ponds. They can view it from afar but not go close to it. Yes.
Well, on that note, we come to the end of this episode of the program, Aqua Farming, where we talk about fish health with none other again but Mr. Gabriel Wase, fish consultant, also a fish expert here on your first agricultural TV station. On behalf of the crew members who made it possible, Miracle and the camera, thank you so much for being a part of the program. See you same time, same station. Bye for now.